This is Histories and Mysteries. I'm your host, Ashley, and your other host is...
Jessica, and on this week's episode, Ashley is going to be talking about Dalia Dippolito.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, good. I paused for a second because it's like, did I actually say it correctly?
You did.
Perfect. I'm so glad. And I actually almost forgot what my story was for a second. That was interesting.
You're probably just trying to block it out.
I am. I am. Oh, honestly, like, okay, I'm doing Albert Fish for everybody else. um, he was a very, very, very horrible man.
Yes, with a horrible childhood.
Oh my goodness, I like just thinking about it is making me nauseous again. But like researching him, I was so nauseous for most of my research. Like I had to take multiple breaks over the span of a few days, and I actually like wanted to stop researching him because it was just horrible.
It's
so
really bad.
It's so bad. So I only used one article for my paper, like for my episode, because I didn't want to read more. But it was a very in-depth article. It was from All That's Interesting. So
Perfect.
It was a very long, in-depth article. So I'm hoping I did it justice.
I'm sure you did.
But massive content warning and trigger warning. And
yeah,
if you don't like gnarly things, don't listen to my segment. I would like it if you did, because it's very fascinating and it's just very interesting, but it's very traumatic. So
yeah, so I decided
lightly.
to do a lighthearted story, so hopefully lighten it up a little bit.
Hopefully,
Except that I go first, so it's gonna be like light and then like bring us down real quick.
Did you want me to go first?
Do you want to go first and get it over with?
That'd be a little change in pace. Okay. No, because at least if I go second, then you can just like put in our job notes to not listen to my story, or just don't listen to my story because you'll know when it is after Ashley. So rather than you having to put it in the job notes, skip ahead to whatever time frame to listen to Ashley's story.
Good point.
I fucked up my mic today.
Oh no, what'd you do?
I had it on the floor.
Because,
well, like I came into my studio to record, or not record. Oh my goodness gracious, to research. So that I was away from my baby in case she was crying, and I didn't want to hear her because that doesn't help me do research.
Yes.
So I left her downstairs with my husband so I could just come upstairs and research in peace, especially because this is such like horrible content. So
right.
Anyway, so I put it on the floor so I had more space to like work. And I was also working on our website in the process, so I just needed some space and stuff. So
And so what'd you do to your microphone?
Oh, I just put it on the floor. Oh, and then when I picked it up today to record, I apparently just like knocked it a bit and like knocked it loose. I think I tightened it enough, but it was a little funky. So we'll see how it goes.
Gotcha.
What are you drinking, by the way?
Water.
Oh, I'm drinking wine.
Look at you.
I was so excited for our video chat because I was going to be like, oh, look at my glass. And it's my stemless wine glass from And That's Why We Drink, from their merch.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, Kyle got me a pair of wine glasses a couple years ago for my birthday, I believe it was. And so...
Yeah, so usually when we record, since, we're not in the same room, since, she lives in Canada and I live in Arizona, we put a Zoom video up just so we can kind of see each other, so it's not so, like, removed. But my computer is a piece of shit, so it took me a half hour just to get it to send one email and open Zoom. Yeah. And then as soon as I got it open, it kicked me out, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull out my Chromebook and we're going to go through Zencastr and not use videos.
Perfect.
That's what we're doing.
At least Zencaster made it available for us to just use audio again instead of
Yeah.
the video because that caused us a lot of issues the first week.
Yes. Yes, it did. And soon my husband's getting a nice desktop PC, so I'll be able to use that and it will be much faster.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, on to your lighthearted story.
Okay, so my sources were this really good 2020 documentary, criminalwords.net, Oxygen, palmbeachpost.net, and the Sun Centennial.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So, August of 2009, Dalia Dippolito pulled up to her townhome in Boynton Beach, Florida, to find a terrifying scene. Her home was surrounded by police officers, firemen, and ambulances. Her heart dropped as she ran to the nearest detective to see what was going on. The detective gave her the worst news of her life. Her husband had been killed.
Oh no.
Dalia immediately broke into tears, sobbing against the detective's chest. He told her that she needed to go with the other officers to answer any questions that they had to find his killer. And you can actually see this video on YouTube because the police department that happened to be investigating this case was on an episode of Cops.
Oh, okay.
So Dahlia was escorted to the local police office where she was extremely willing to answer any questions. Again, you can see this. They recorded her whole conversation. Most of this case, there's video of it. So this one, they recorded the interrogation as they usually do. So you can also see this. Um, but the detectives asked her if she knew of anybody that would want to hurt her husband, Michael. And she explained that Michael was on probation for fraud. He had spent some time in jail and now he was out on probation. And some people were mad that he was out on probation. And I guess he owed like $191,000 in restitution to his victims.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So she's like, there's probably quite a few people that are mad at him.
Yeah, no
Um,
kidding.
yeah. And I guess he used to be a drug addict as well. And he was also a recovering alcoholic. Um, and so he really liked to stick to schedules, and he was supposed to go to the gym with her that morning. That's where she was coming from when she got home. And he decided not to go because he had recently got some lipo done. So he's like, oh, I shouldn't exercise right now. So he stayed at home, which is where they explained that someone came to their door. He let them in and they shot him twice and in his room.
Okay.
And then the interview, it got kind of weird because Dahlia started talking about how she was confused as to why he would answer the door because they have cameras in both the front and the back door that don't record, but they show like live recording or live video. So he would be able to see who was at the door. And she's like, I don't understand why he would open the door for someone who he didn't know.
Yeah.
Um, and she kind of dwelled on this for like a really long time. And they would say different things to her, and she'd just be like, I just don't know why he would answer the door. So that got kind of weird. And they go back and forth for a little bit about the cameras and how weird it was and all this kind of stuff. And then the investigator says this, and I have a transcript from the interview, so I'm just going to read it.
Okay.
Investigator, okay, the game's over with. Okay, there's no more games with you and I. Now we're going to get down to serious business. I want to know if you know this guy. And then the door opens up and this guy walks in the room. And the investigator says, come here, bring this guy in here, get over here. He walks in handcuffed. The investigator says, do you know this guy? Dalia, no. Investigator, you've never seen him before. Dalia, I've never seen him before, never. Investigator, do you know her? The man, it says inaudible. And then the detective says, put your head up and look at her. Dalia says, I've never seen him. Investigator, what were you doing coming out of her house? Get him out of here. And then he looks at Dalia and says, you're going to jail today for solicitation of murder. You're under arrest. That's an undercover police officer. We've known everything you did, recorded everything that you did. You're going to jail for solicitation of first-degree murder of your husband.
What?
Dalia says, I didn't do anything. The investigator said, did you hear what I just told you? Dalia said, I heard what you said, but I Investigator, everything. Listen to me. Everything has been recorded. You were photographed in the convertible when you sat in his car in front of CVS. Dalia, oh my God. Investigator, what do you want to do here, Dalia? Dalia, I didn't do anything. And then basically she just keeps saying, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything.
You know what would have been fun?
Hmm.
If you gave me the transcript and we acted that scene out.
Ooh. Oh gosh.
The whole time I was listening to it, it's like, oh, this would have been fun to do back and forth.
Back and forth.
The
That
drama,
would have been
the
fun.
tension. I mean, we can still do it.
It'd take me 4 hours to send this transcript to you through my computer, though.
Probably. Oh my god, it's so funny.
So in the video, so Cops was still there filming. So
Oh,
you
I
can
was gonna be like,
see
cops were still there. Of course they were.
Cops, the show, was still there
Okay.
filming. And so they show Michael standing just outside of the interrogation door when the investigator said, your husband's not dead. We know you solicited. So he's not even really dead.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. That was
Yeah.
a plot twist. I'm sorry. That was so loud.
No, you're
I just
fine.
I'm looking at my audio feed and I just see it go up.
No, I was
Sorry.
hoping for that reaction.
Okay. Okay. Keep going. I'm invested.
Okay. So she said, she's like, Michael, come here, please. Michael. And he's like, no. Like, she's begging him. And he's basically saying, like, no, you tried to kill me, bitch. So let's look back at how this happily ever after started.
Okay.
So in 2008, Dalia was working as an escort and was hired by a married Michael Dippolito.
That was like a year ago, right?
2008?
Yeah, well, because this happened in 2009, right?
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant from today. And I was like, Jessica, it's 2021. What?
No. I like to
Yeah.
get a timeline of when things kind of like happen and like when the timeline jumps and shit. So,
Yeah. No, this all happens within a year. They're only married for 6 months when she tries to hire the.
oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So in 2008, she was working as an escort. And then within 4 months, they decided to get married. So he was already
Oh,
married. So he had to get a divorce. And 5 days after his divorce was finalized, they got married. So it was 4 months after they met.
wow.
Almost immediately, Dahlia went to work trying to get Michael put back in jail because remember, he was on probation for that fraud charge.
Yeah.
She apparently wanted his money because he had been saving up and he had, I think, over $100,000 saved up to give to the restitution that he owed.
Okay.
And she wanted his money and his townhome.
Yes.
Although I feel like $100,000 is not a lot of money to kill for, but
No. But
yeah.
he must have had like some other assets or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Like
there
the
must have been something
townhouse.
else.
And I mean, she was an escort, so like she might not have had the nicest digs. Like,
True.
so anything would have been better.
Um, yeah. So her first idea, which was actually a pretty good idea, was to get him to violate his probation so he'd go back to jail. And so she'd get it all.
Yes.
So she enlisted the help of her ex-boyfriend, Mike Stanley, and wanted him to contact Michael, acting as a lawyer, to tell him that his probation period was over, hoping that he would believe the lie and then, like, somehow violate probation because he thought he wasn't on it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
She also had him impersonate a doctor to tell Michael that she was pregnant. I don't really get that part of it,
Okay.
but yeah, I don't
Weird.
know.
Okay. I never understood those. Did you ever see the musical Chicago? Like,
I haven't. I need to.
okay. I'm not. Ugh, okay. Well, she stated she was pregnant, right? To like
Mhm.
get somewhere out of things. But like I don't understand people that do that or say stuff like that because you're not pregnant. The doctors are going to be like, "Hey, yeah, no, she's not pregnant." And you're not going to
Right.
show.
Yeah, they're gonna find out eventually.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, even if you say a little bit in, "Oh, I had a miscarriage," you're not gonna have any proof, like, nobody's gonna
Yeah.
believe you. I don't understand.
I don't get it either.
I
I do not get it.
Yeah, I've never understood that whole, like, little tit for I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but,
Yeah.
like, I never understood it.
Yeah, I don't
So,
either.
and especially in this situation, it makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't get it, and I tried to look all over to figure out why, like, what the idea was behind that, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, no, so stupid.
But yeah, so she did that.
Okay.
And apparently, this was to cover up the fact that she had actually already stolen his money. So she had already stolen that $100,000. So she wanted him to go to jail as quickly as possible so that he wouldn't know.
Oh.
And apparently, her ex, Michael, and her were still in love and still exchanging sexual and lovey dovey text messages. And I have some of them. Would you like to hear them? They're awful.
I would like to read them back and forth with you, but that's fine. Go ahead.
But that's fine. Yeah, I'll have to remember that next time I have like a thing. Well, I'll send it to you ahead of time
This
and we
would
can act it
because it
out.
would be so much fun. We
It
could
would
be
be
like secret lovers, Ashley.
secret lovers.
I don't know that song.
What?
Yeah.
That's an old song.
Okay.
It's from like the 80s, I think.
Okay. I was at our dog park. We go with like a group of people every week. They go like
Uh-huh.
every single day, but I really only have time on like the weekends to go just because of the baby and stuff, and it's been too cold to
Yeah.
bring her. So I have to go when Kyle's home and he can watch her. Anyways, so I was there and they had mentioned like Cujo. I don't remember why. And I'm like, I don't know what Cujo is.
You didn't know what I've never seen it, but I know what it
I had
is.
no idea what it was. And they're like, what the fuck? And they're all older. Like, they're all in like their 50s and 60s. Like, they're older people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm young-ish, and I knew what Cujo was.
Well, I had no idea. And apparently, I didn't even know how to spell it. I spelled it with a K. And apparently, it's spelled with a C.
Is it Cujo?
Yeah.
Look at me
I
go.
know. You're so smart.
Smartest person in world.
SMRT. Smart.
Smart.
Okay, sorry. Back to our secret
Yes.
lovers.
Okay, secret lovers. These are disgusting. And the funniest part was, again, they had video of the trial, and one of the police officers had to get up and read these text messages.
Oh.
It was awful and wonderful all at the same time. Okay. Dalia, I have always wanted you. You're my unicorn.
Whoa. Okay.
I want you as the anchor in my life, the hub, the center, she said back.
The horn.
The horn. And then they said, are you speechless? Do you want my hot, tight body all over you?
Oh.
And again, remember, picture like this old man cop reading these on stand. It was
Oh my gosh.
hilarious.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay.
And then he said, the last one I have is that this is kind of just isn't as funny, but it's to the point of, her premeditating everything. She said, the sooner he gets jammed up, the sooner we can be in Paradise Island, baby.
Ooh, kinky.
Yeah. But apparently this plan of the fake lawyer telling him he was off probation didn't work.
Okay.
And so her next idea was to plant drugs in his truck to get him caught that way.
Oh.
Because again, he was on probation, so he would have gone right back to jail.
Yes.
So she did plant the drugs in his truck. And I think at one point he did get pulled over, but they never found them. So that didn't work.
Wow.
So because she couldn't get him back into jail, she decided to do the next logical thing. Kill him.
Okay.
I'm not sure what her brilliant plan was with this because I don't really know how she would have hidden that she did this. But at one point, she bought them both a tea and she filled his with antifreeze.
A what?
And antifreeze?
No, but like, what did she fill what with antifreeze?
Oh, his tea.
His
Like a tea?
like Like the drink?
like a drinking.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
like
Okay.
a tea.
You just said
Yeah.
a tea, and I didn't know if it was like a t-shirt that she like dipped into it or
Oh,
like.
no, like a tea, like a
Okay.
hot tea
Okay.
or an
Okay.
iced
I think
tea.
it's just because
Yeah,
I was thinking like arsenic or cyanide instead and not
gotcha.
antifreeze into
Antifreeze.
tea.
Yeah, yeah. So she decided to put antifreeze in his tea, and like, so obviously, had he died that way, like, I feel like it would have been really obvious
Yeah.
who did it.
Well, that's the thing. Use arsenic, bitch.
It was,
Like,
yeah.
how dumb are you?
Only us true crime fans know how to really do a murder.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Okay.
I heard one thing that was, this is genius on how to bury a body and get away with it. I heard a couple things. One is to bury the body like up and down,
Mm-hmm.
so it takes up less room, and then bury like a dead animal on top of it. So if it like a scent dog comes in and smells it, they'll unbury like the dead animal and think that's what it
Yeah.
is. I also heard to plant
Yes. I
like
was gonna mention this one. Like,
yeah,
in
like an
yeah.
endangered plant on there so
Yeah.
they can't dig it up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfect. Oh my god.
Yep. Well, she didn't think that well.
Okay.
And she decided to put the antifreeze in his tea. And he said he took one sip, noticed it tasted weird, and dumped it. And he said he was sick for several days after that, but he had no idea. Like,
Mm-mm.
he just thought it tasted weird.
Bad tea.
So,
Bad
yeah.
tea.
So that didn't work. So her next plan was to hire a hitman.
Mm-hmm.
So she contacted yet another one of her exes, Muhammad. I'm gonna butcher his last name, but I think it's Sihada, and asked him to get her a hitman. And making the first smart move of this case, Muhammad was like, nah, man, I'm gonna tell the cops that you did
Good.
this. Yes. So he called the cops and he was like, hey, this lady's trying to hire a hitman to kill her husband. And the police went to work. They had one of their own pose as a hitman and record the whole conversation. And you can also find this online because it was videotaped for evidence.
How would you find that stuff?
So I just Googled like Dalia interrogation, Dalia hitman video, Dalia Dippolito, and they have it all. Plus, it's a whole cops episode.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so she gave the hitman $7,000 to commit the hit, which,
Cheap.
yeah, like that should have been her first red flag that he
Yeah.
wasn't real. And before they left the conversation, he said to Dahlia, now, are you sure you want to do this? Because once we leave the car, there's no way for you to get a hold of me. So this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And Dahlia said something along the lines of, like, I might like look like a little innocent girl, but I'm not. I'm 5,000% sure I want this done.
Wow.
So this takes us back to the fake crime scene that Dahlia drove up to at her house. And I wanted to say this earlier, but I didn't want to give it away. You can also find that video of her driving up to the crime scene and talking to the detective. And if you watch the video, she starts crying before he even gets the sentence out that your husband has been killed.
Oh my goodness.
So it's like your husband has been killed, and then she starts like bawling.
Huh.
So it's like, okay, that was bad right there.
And does it look like she's fake crying?
Actually, she looks pretty real. Her left hand is even like trembling. She did a good job.
Yeah. Or she was actually like, holy shit, this actually happened.
Oh, yeah, that could be. And was like scared, kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah. Yeah, because she did a pretty good job.
Okay.
So, and there obviously was a ton of evidence for this crime. I mean, they had all the videos, the text message, the witnesses. It was basically an open and closed case. So, what could the defense claim?
Insanity.
What do you think, Jessica?
I always go to insanity.
You would think that that would be a road that they took, but it's not. They said that, guys, don't worry. This was all for a reality show. They said Dahlia knew she
that's
was
what
being
they
recorded.
said. I thought that you were just saying that to
Yes.
us. Oh my, okay.
Oh, no, 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 sorry, that's what the lawyers
Oh
were
my,
saying.
okay.
Yeah. They said that Dahlia knew she was being recorded when talking to the hitman, and her and Michael were in on it because they wanted to be reality stars. Michael said, uh, no,
Nah,
that's not
bruh.
true. Yeah. Nobody believed her, not even the jury, and she was found guilty.
Good.
The judge in 2011 sentenced her to 20 years in jail, saying that her plot was pure evil.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, that's not all, Jessica.
Okay.
In 2016, her conviction was overturned. Yeah, they said that the jury was tainted because the lawyer wanted to interview each juror independently, and the judge said, no, you don't need to do that. We can interview them in a group. And so when he asked the jurors what they knew of this case, because at this point it was pretty big in the headlines, like it was everywhere. So most of the jurors had heard of the case, and they said, okay, well, what have you heard about it? And one of the jurors said, well, I heard that she tried to poison Michael with antifreeze. And she said that in front of all the other jurors in the room, and they weren't supposed to be able to use that in court. It wasn't deemed admissible,
Mm-hmm.
but they kept that same jury. They didn't declare a mistrial or send the jury home or
Well,
anything.
that's on them.
Yeah. Yep. So it was overturned. And so they went to court a second time. And because they had won so easily the first time, the prosecution decided to do kind of like a slimmed down version of their first trial, which was a mistake.
Okay.
The jury was deadlocked. And so it was declared a mistrial.
What does deadlocked mean?
Like they couldn't
Oh,
unanimously
okay,
agree. It
okay,
was
okay.
three
That's what
and
I thought.
three.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 3-3. While she was waiting for this for this second trial, however, that did deadlock, while she was waiting for it, she was on house arrest. So because her first trial was overturned, she technically wasn't convicted, so she got to go home and just be on house arrest awaiting her second trial. During her second trial, her lawyer said one of the reasons why they shouldn't convict her is because they would be taking her away from her son.
What?
Everybody kind of looked at each other and said, what
Yeah.
son? Well, apparently, during house arrest, a repairman came to the house and she slept with him and got pregnant and had a little boy.
Oh. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So now she has a poor child that she brought into this, right?
Oh my Lanta.
So, second jury deadlocked. So she had a third trial. And in this third trial, she was convicted and sentenced to 16 years because the judge used some of her house arrest time as time served.
Okay.
So she was sentenced to 16 years, and she has gone through all of her appeals at this point, and they brought it to the Supreme Court, and they refused to hear her case. So she is in prison until 2032 at the
Good.
earliest. Yep. And Michael went on and he got remarried, and tried to put this whole mess behind him.
Nice.
And that is the story of Dalia Dippolito.
Aw, I liked it. It was a nice, like, what are words? It was a nice lighthearted story before my
Yeah, now bring us down, Jessica.
travesty. Okay.
Now make us all cry.
I'm almost a whole glass of wine into my life, so this will
Nice.
be fun. Okay. So my story is about Albert Fish. Content warning again. tread lightly or just skip me if you have to, if you have a weak stomach, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible man.
This is for like the crazy ones of us that listen to this kind of
Yeah.
crap.
I just had to drink a whole glass of wine to be able to even like tell you this story. So have fun. He was also known as the Brooklyn Vampire, Werewolf of Wisteria, the Gray Man, or the Boogeyman. He was born in May of 1870 in Washington, D.C. His name was actually Hamilton Howard Albert Fish, but he went by Albert
Oh,
Fish. Yeah.
okay.
He had a lot of mental illness as a child, and so did a lot of his family members, including his brother, who was actually locked up in an asylum, and his uncle, who suffered from mania, which back then was
Um,
just an agitated psychotic state.
okay.
And his mom had visual hallucinations.
Oh,
Yeah. And I always find it so bizarre that like you can have audible and separate like visual hallucinations. So you can have like one or the other. Or I mean you
yeah.
can have both at the same time, but I think it's interesting that you can have them separated from another.
Yeah, that is interesting. There's a guy on TikTok that is schizophrenic
Oh.
and he talks about it and like what he sees and how he has to like remind himself that things aren't real and I can't even imagine.
Mm-mm. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I feel so bad for people.
I know.
Um yeah, that's just terrible. Especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, like just that on top of it, it would be rough.
Yeah, for sure.
Albert's father was 75 years old when he had Albert. And so unfortunately he died 5 years later at the age of 80.
Well, I mean, he lived a long life.
He did live a long life, but just sad for Albert that like he had to grow up without his dad, right? His dad died when he was
Yeah.
5, so
Yeah.
but very long life back then.
Yeah.
His mother couldn't afford to take care of him and his siblings, so she sent them to an orphanage. And I use unfortunately a lot. I'm so sorry.
Well, a lot of his life is
It
unfortunate.
is. um, it's here at the orphanage that Albert learned he had an enthusiasm for pain. He liked
Ugh.
pain. The workers at the orphanage took it upon themselves to beat the children that were living there.
Yeah.
And and they even urged the children to beat each other up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we're going to beat you and you're also going to beat each other up too. Have fun.
That's awful. That's
Yeah.
awful.
Terrible, terrible, terrible. It's like they're in the orphanage, they're abandoned by their family, their parents, and they're also just being maliciously treated.
Yeah.
Like horrible.
Yeah, orphanages weren't great back then. And I'm sure there's still some today that aren't
Well,
great.
no, and it's just like it just seems like a daycare for me right now because like it'll make sense in a little bit, but
Okay.
it seems weird. It's like a drop off service of some sort.
Oh, okay.
So
That's weird.
yeah, it'll make sense in like 3 points, 3 bullet
Okay.
points.
Okay.
So most of the children here feared these punishments, obviously, but Albert lived for them. He was at this orphanage until the age of 9, so from I think 5 to 9. And over the years, he learned to associate the pain for pleasure
Oh,
at such a young age, like 9 years
yeah.
old. How
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
Um, this also eventually became associated with sexual gratification
Mm.
because I'm sure that on top of the other children beating each other up, that there was some form of sexual mistreatment as well between the kids.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, okay, so here's the third point. When his mother was finally able to take them back, the damage had already been done and he had seen too much and he had done too much. So, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like a drop off service because She sent them to the orphanage until she was able to become financially stable, and then she took them back.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
weird.
Um so once he returned home, he actually continued to beat himself, like he would hurt himself
Uh,
because he wanted to get the pleasure that came with it.
Okay.
And here's where things start to get really worse, like much worse. Sorry, that's English. Um,
Okay.
this is the part where I became very nauseous. And he's only 12 years old at this point.
Okay.
He began a relationship with a telegraph boy. I don't know how old this boy is. Based on research, it seems like he's an older kid, but who
Okay.
knows at this point. This boy then introduced Albert to the practice of urolagnia. Do you know what that is?
No, and I'm scared to ask.
It is a tendency to derive sexual pleasure from the sight of or thought of urination.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're not going to kink shame, so if people like that, they like that.
And he also introduced him to coprophagia, which is the practice of eating poop.
Okay,
Like
I'm not going to kink shame,
human
but
feces, human waste.
okay.
So, like, when you look up what coprophagia is on
Yeah.
Google, it immediately
Uh-huh.
refers to the practice of dogs eating poop. Like, it
Oh,
doesn't reference humans eating poop, it references the practice of dogs eating their own shit or eating other dogs' shit.
so my lab, when she was a puppy, she tried to eat her own poop. And my boyfriend at the time was like not paying attention. So he let her, like, he wasn't paying attention. So she ate her own
Mm-hmm.
poop and then she threw it up and then she tried to eat her own throw up.
Blech.
So
Oh
gross.
my gosh. Ew.
She's so
That is really
gross.
gross. My Shih Tzu growing up, he used to like to eat his own poop when he was a puppy, and then
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he
she
grew
only
out of
did it
it.
once and then she
Well,
learned.
that's good. I'm glad
She just
she
learned that it was
learned.
gross. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. Um, so this dude also became wildly obsessed with self-mutilation.
That's not
And
good.
it's not even just like, cutting yourself or like punching yourself in the face or stuff like that. It was like embedding needles into his groin and abdomen and hitting himself with a nail studded paddle.
Oh God.
Yeah, like there's an x-ray showing that there were 29 needles inserted into his pelvic area.
Oh my
Yeah, like this
gosh.
dude was fucked.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, I mean, there's definitely people who like pain, is like a sexual release, which is fine, whatever you're into if it's a consenting
yes.
thing. But when you're like physically, seriously hurting yourself, that's not good.
Yeah, and like putting yourself into danger. And I mean, just keep in mind, this is what he does to himself.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think he could do to other people?
Well, I'm assuming nothing good since we're talking about him on our podcast.
No. And it's just, it's bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
when he was 20 years old, he moved to New York City. And sorry, I made a funny joke into here just to like make sure I didn't die when I was researching. So, did you ever watch Hamilton, like the
Yeah.
musical? So you know
Yeah.
the line where it's in New York, you can be a new man.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that came into my head when he moved to New York City.
Oh no, but I think in Hamilton they were thinking a little bit different kind of man.
Yeah. Because he went the opposite direction. But like that's
Yeah.
the first line that came into my brain was that song. And it's just like, oh man, okay. Thanks, brain,
Oh
for trying to make
gosh.
my life lighthearted at the moment. But like inappropriate.
Tried real hard.
Tried. So, oh my goodness. Okay. And his name was Hamilton. So, like, it's just funny.
It fits.
It fits really well. um, so, this bad man was very interested in pain and the pleasure it gave him. So, he decided he was immediately going to start learning more about the pain on others and how that made him feel. Not
Oh,
how it made them feel, but how it made him feel. Okay.
right.
He began prostituting himself out and he began molesting and torturing young boys.
Oh.
What do you think his favorite weapon was?
Oh God. Oh God.
A
Hammer.
nail studded paddle.
Oh,
Yep.
don't like that.
Don't like that. But 8 years after moving to the big city, Albert married a woman that his mother introduced him to, and he fathered
Oh.
6 children with her.
Oh
Yep.
gosh.
Luckily for his children, I guess, he was never violent to them, but he
Okay.
did continue to rape and torture other children, like, in the neighborhood.
It's crazy to me how serial killers can kind of do that. They can like disassociate children and their own children,
Right?
you know?
Like, how odd is that? And, like, it just doesn't seem like his MO, right? It's like, "Oh, I'm gonna father children and just, like, they're conveniently here."
Yeah.
Right? Like, it just I mean, thank
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's
goodness.
better than yeah, doing it to your
Yeah.
own kids, which somehow makes it
Yeah.
worse. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's like, thank goodness for his poor children because, I mean, they're gonna go through enough after finding out what their
Right.
father did.
Oh God, I can't even
I could
imagine.
never imagine, like, holy heinous.
Ugh.
Ugh, yeah, indeed. Um, okay, laughing because I'm uncomfortable. In 1910, he began a sadomasochistic relationship. I hope I said that correctly.
Sadomasochist? Yeah.
Okay, cool. With a Thomas Kedden, and though it's unknown, like it's unknown how much was actually consentful,
Uh,
but like they just don't know. According to
okay.
Albert, he alluded to the fact that Kedden was mentally disabled.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was apparently hard to tell fact from fiction when it came to Albert's stories.
Okay.
10 days after meeting, Albert lured Kedden to a farmhouse under the pretense of a lover's rendezvous. I
Ooh.
know. But when
I bet it's not good
it's
though.
not good. But when Kedden got there, he discovered that he had been locked inside.
Oh no.
Yeah. For 2 weeks, Kedden was tortured. His body was mutilated, and half of his penis was cut off.
Oh my gosh.
Then, Albert disappeared after giving Kedden a $10 bill for all of the trouble he had caused him. Yeah.
What?
He gave him a $10 bill and said, "Peace out, motherfucker. I'm sorry for what I did to you."
At least he didn't kill him, but
But he
still.
left him with half a penis.
Yeah.
Half a penis. Gosh. Albert later recalled of this, quote, I shall never forget his scream or the look he gave me. And I don't even know how
Oh.
old Kedden was, but I hope he wasn't too young. I mean, it doesn't make it any better, but like I hope he wasn't too young
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's just horrible. By 1917, Albert's wife left him due to his severely diminishing mental health. So, as one does, he increased the levels of his self mutilation.
Oh
It
God.
included inserting even more needles into his groin and also okay, and also setting wool on fire. And then once he set the wool on fire, actually, he shoved it up into his rectum.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I think he might have shoved the wool up there first, like it was like drenched in lighter fluid, and then he lit it on fire after it was in his butt. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I don't like
So
not being on video because I can't see your face.
It's not a happy face.
Mm. Ah,
um, uh,
yep.
just like medically,
Yeah.
wouldn't that like cauterize
Uh,
like your butthole?
I don't know.
Not your butthole, but like your butt canal.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it might not have been like enough wool to like do the job, just to kind of like, because it,
Gotcha.
it to
Okay.
me, wool drenched in lighter fluid would light up really fast and kind of go out
Yeah, that's true.
and
That's true.
not burn
Okay.
long enough to cauterize. But I
Okay.
don't know things like that, so I don't know.
Okay. Are you sure you don't know things like that?
I I'm really sorry that I'm not like in
More well
yeah,
versed
thank
in the
you.
wool up the butt.
Yeah, thank you. Words. I don't I don't know what I was trying to say to my husband, but I said that he was really engorged into something else instead of using, I think, entrenched or something. Like I
Yeah, no, you said that to me.
no, I also said it to him.
Oh, well, you messaged that to me that he was engorged,
Yeah,
and I was just like, um,
yeah. I
what?
I did the wrong word. As apparently you can hear that I don't know how to speak anymore. Um been away from work for too long. Jeepers, Murphy. Yo, Ashley.
What?
Oh, my friend. Oh my god. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna take some time out of this horrible story to like
Okay.
thank the people that have so far sent us a message through our website to our email.
Oh.
So we got two from my husband because he's a sweetheart.
Oh.
And one of the ones he said, um, I just wanted to say how engorged you ladies have made me while listening to your
Wait, no,
podcast.
that's where I read it. You
Yeah.
didn't send it to me.
Yeah,
That's where I
yeah,
read
yeah,
it, and I was like, I don't what?
yeah. It was Kyle.
Okay.
It was Kyle. So he said that because of what I said to him. And
Gotcha.
then my friend Jan, she I met her when I was in public school. She was helping with one of the kids there. Um, and she's a very sweet lady. I love Jan. I miss her. I haven't seen her in a couple of years just because like I moved away. But
Uh-huh.
she's always been like super supportive and very lovely. And she wrote, "Hi Jess, these are perfect for me to listen to while potting." I think she does like pottery.
Aw.
So she sent that. And then I just saw one came in tonight, I believe, from my coworker Robin. She's also
Uh-huh.
been very supportive and very
Yeah,
open.
she has. I always see her messages on Facebook and
Yeah,
stuff.
and she recommended us on Facebook, which was so sweet of her.
Oh,
And
thank
she's
you,
just, yeah,
Robin.
I love Robin. She's so lovely. She was my partner when I was doing my temporary assignment as a senior clerk. And she's just a sweetheart. She's my work mom, and I love her. And I miss her. I hope you're doing well, Robin. Um, and she just sent us a message saying, "I've been enjoying your podcast and all the effort that you put into your research. I have a suggestion for a future episode. Robert
Yay!
Picton, keep up the great work."
Robert
Ooh,
Picton, that sounds
it sounds
familiar.
familiar. I don't know who he is.
Okay, we'll have to look him up.
Oh,
Well, then if you're thinking people I would like to shout out
yeah, for
someone,
sure.
I would like to shout out Amanda,
Yes.
who is actually an old coworker of mine. And she heard that I had a podcast and she's been listening to it ever since. And she's awesome. And I know she listens to it because she asks me questions from things in the
Is that
podcast.
Amanda Jane?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I was gonna ask you because I'm like, I really want to like call her out because she's always liking stuff, and there's a Tony on here. Um, I don't want to mispronounce your last name, Tony, but you like our Instagram posts all the time, so thank
Yay.
you. We love all of our listeners, and
Yeah,
thank you everybody for just being supportive.
for sure.
We have a website now. I made an Instagram post about it. Basically, it's histories and mysteries. Oh no, I should pull it up before I mess this up. I don't even know my own website. Jeepers. It's histories and mysteries podcast.godaddysites.com. Again, it's on our Instagram post. I think it's on our Facebook page as well. But it's basically like you can read more about us if you don't know us personally.
We're pretty boring.
Yeah.
But
but there's also a contact form where you can send us an email, like Robin, Jan, and my husband did. And where you can suggest stories like Robin did, and tell us if you have any suggestions on what we can do better or improve on. There's a section where you can find us on different platforms, and then there's also a blog of all of our episodes, so you can read about them again, and you can also listen to them through Anchor if you go into the blog and the posts.
Yay.
So sorry about that, like, big old sidetrack, but I just got really excited about Robin's message, and then just sorry.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
It's nice to take a break.
We get
from
to
this
interject
story.
some nice stuff into your horrible story that you're
Exactly.
subjecting us
Rather
to.
than right at the end, it's nice to hear about it in the middle. So I hope people didn't skip my story because this is
We'll repeat it at the end.
okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Sorry, I'm just so uncomfortable with this stupid story. Okay, I will continue. Okay. So Mr. Albert Fish also began experiencing audible hallucinations on top of everything else. So lovely, right?
Yes.
He also started teaching his children sadomasochist games, and he also developed a passion for cannibalism. Woohoo!
Woo, that's
Buddy, I
exciting.
know. However, before consuming human flesh, he started by simply eating raw meat. Like, why? You can cook human meat. Don't eat it raw.
Yeah,
Nasty.
that's true. Or you just stick to the raw meat and not deal with human meat. That's where I thought you were going with that, but I mean, you do you.
Sorry. Okay. He also had his children eat the raw meat, which okay.
Poor kids.
Okay, yeah. So up to this point, he hadn't murdered anyone yet. He had just mutilated and tortured and just let them go and live their lives, tortured and psychologically hurt.
Right.
But by 1919, at the age of 49, his passion for torture and cannibalism brought him to new heights, and he started to contemplate murder. Yeah, his focus would be on children that he thought wouldn't be missed, such as disabled orphans and homeless Black children.
Oh.
Yeah. He stated that God was instructing him to do these things to these children. So his audible hallucinations, right?
Why, when people are like this, why does God always tell them to do evil things? Like, God never says, like, hey, go help your neighbor.
Right? So he would also look for families looking for housework to be done or young men that were seeking work for themselves. And one of these families was the family of Grace Budd. Originally, however, Albert had set his eyes on Grace's 18-year-old brother, Edward. So Edward was looking for work on a farm, and it was Albert's intention to hire him and then bring him out to his home to torture him. Yeah, he offered the job to Edward under the name of Frank Howard, but while Edward was thinking the job over, Albert's focus shifted to the girl standing behind their parents, 10-year-old Grace Budd. So he began to work quickly and came up with the story that he was also in town to attend his niece's birthday party, and he wanted to know if Grace wanted to join him.
No.
Yeah, poor little lamb. Her parents agreed to let her go, because why not?
Yeah.
And then they never saw their daughter again.
Oh.
So what he did was he took Grace to his home upstate, where he had intended on bringing her brother and torturing him. But he saw Grace and Sunny. He's like, oh, she'll do just fine. Um, okay, so just another gentle, aggressive reminder that this is content warning. So please be aware as we move forward here. Because I thought my story on Peter Curtin was bad, but this guy is just much worse. As I take another sip of my wine.
Yeah.
So, Albert Fish sent a letter to Grace's mom, Delia, 6 years after Grace had gone missing. In this
Oh my
letter,
God.
so like they didn't know what happened to her at this point, okay?
Uh-huh.
She just disappeared. They couldn't find any trace of her. So in this letter, he indicated how he let Grace pick wildflowers outside of his home, how he stripped naked upstairs in his room, and then called her into the house.
No.
Yeah. When she saw his naked body, she screamed and tried to flee, but she wasn't quick enough for Albert. In the letter to Delia, he wrote, quote, Dear Mrs. Budd, on Sunday, June the 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street, Brout. Oh, sorry, Street. Brought you pot cheese, strawberries. I haven't read this yet, so I
Okay.
just copied and pasted it in, so I have no idea how to read this. We had lunch. Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her. First, I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death, then cut her in small pieces so I could take the meat to my rooms, cook, and eat it. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. And that's what he sent to her mother 6 years after he had killed her.
That's another level of fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not doing well. All right. Oh, I have 2 more gulps. Gotta get through this. So as awful as this actually was, like there was a silver lining to this because it began at Albert Fish's downfall.
Okay.
The first clue that assisted police was the stationery he had written the letter on. It was from the New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association. After inquiring, police discovered that the paper was left behind by a janitor at a house he had been staying at. It was found out that the man who strongly resembled Frank Howard, or Albert Fish, was staying at this rooming house, and it was Albert Fish, so the police set up an interview with him.
Okay.
Almost immediately, he confessed.
Oh.
And he was basically like tripping over his words, trying to reveal everything he did to Grace Budd as well as other children.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Only 3 children, though, including Grace, were confirmed to be his victims,
Okay.
although he said that there was many more. In 1927, a year prior to meeting Grace, Albert supposedly kidnapped and murdered a 4-year-old boy named Billy Gaffney. Billy had disappeared while he was playing with a friend, and that friend would later say that the boogeyman took Billy.
Oh.
He described Albert as a slender, elderly man with gray hair and a gray mustache. So initially, the police didn't believe the 3-year-old boy's accounts of events, but after searching everywhere for young Billy, they concluded that he had been kidnapped and poor Billy was never seen again.
Oh, poor Billy.
I know. The same day that Billy disappeared, a trolley driver described a man with Albert's descriptors trying to quiet down a young boy sitting next to him on the trolley who was crying for his mother. And then eventually this man dragged the young boy off of the trolley.
Oh.
Yes. After his arrest, Albert described what he did to Billy in awful detail. So, again, I haven't read this because I didn't want to read it more than once.
Yeah.
Quote, I took tools, a good heavy cat of 9 tails, homemade short handle, cut one of my belts in half, slit these halves in 6 strips about 8 inches long. I whipped his bare behind till the blood ran from his legs. I cut off his ears, nose, slit his mouth from ear to ear.
Oh my God.
We're not done. Gouged out his eyes. He was dead then. I stuck the knife in his belly and held my mouth to his body and drank his blood.
Oh my God.
Right? Right? All right. Poor Billy.
Wow.
The third victim was a boy named Francis McDonnell, whom he kidnapped in 1924 while he was playing with his brother and some friends outside. When his body was found, it was observed that he had been strangled with his own suspenders. Albert confessed before being put to death that he was going to dismember Francis's body, but he thought he heard someone coming, so he quickly left.
Well, that one wasn't as bad. Thankfully for that little boy.
Thankfully, yes. So this is just about his trial now. So his trial began on March 11th, 1935. And based off of all of his confessions and the fact that he smiled while describing in detail all of his heinous crimes, the
Ugh.
defense pleaded guilty by reason of insanity. As previously stated, he admitted that God spoke to him and told him he needed to kill children, so that's why he did it, and hence the insanity plea. And even though numerous psychiatrists deemed him insane, after 10 days, the jury found him sane enough, and he was sentenced to death by electrocution in a year's time.
Good.
Yes. So while he was waiting in prison, he was allowed to write down his account of events, which would later help reporters covering his crimes if it was released. He stated that he had a kid in every state, but that remains a mystery and cannot be confirmed. So there was just the 3 kids that could be confirmed. His writings were never released because his lawyer deemed them to be too ghoulish for public attention, and he promised that he would never show these writings to anyone else.
Wow, his own lawyer.
Yeah, his own lawyer was just like, these are too ghoulish. These are too horrendous. I cannot share this
Wow.
with anybody. And then Albert Fish was then killed via electrocution on January 16th, 1936.
Wow.
And that is my terrible story on Albert Fish.
So I remembered that it was bad. I didn't remember that it was that bad.
Right? And I'd
Yeah.
never heard of this case before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I found him when I was researching my vampire stories, because on All
Mm-hmm.
That's Interesting at the bottom they suggest other similar stories, and he was the
Okay.
vampire of Brooklyn. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I put him on my list, and then I didn't realize that he would be this horrible.
Yeah, that was whew.
So,
Woo.
I mean, I hope people enjoyed the story.
Yeah, I mean you did it well.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
did like a forensics class on it, right?
Yeah, so when I was a high school teacher, I taught forensics, and one of my units was on serial killers. And I think I used him more of his childhood when we talked about like nature versus nurture in serial
Okay,
killers.
yeah.
I don't think I got into his crimes as
Okay.
much.
Yeah, he was pretty horrible.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm sorry y'all had to be subjected to that.
But if you hung in with us,
Yeah. Thanks
thanks.
so much. And in case you did skip my story and skipped to the end, um, again, I just wanted to thank my husband, Jan, and Robin for sending us messages through our website. It's histories and mysteries podcast.godaddysite.com. I made an Instagram post about it if you want to look at it. And the
Yay.
picture is our new business cards. So
Yeah. Jessica worked really, really hard on the website. It looks super awesome. So thank you for that,
you're
Jessica.
welcome. Thank you for editing every week. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. And then I also called out Amanda Jane
Yes.
she's her name's Amanda, but her Facebook name is Amanda J. But she she's an old coworker of mine who I haven't talked to in years, and then like we happened to kind of reconnect on Facebook when she found out I had the podcast, and then when she found out I was having a little boy, because she's got um two or three little boys, I can't remember. And so we've been chatting, and she's been really supportive of the podcast and listens to us, I think every week. So I wanted to thank her and give her a shout out as well.
Yeah, and I said thank you to someone named Tony earlier, but I'm just a dumbass, and her name's Tanya.
Super close. They both start with a
Well,
T.
I didn't know what I just looked at her username. I didn't go into her profile, so it was just like Tony A Cell. So I just thought it was Tony. Like I know a girl Tony, so like
Yeah.
I don't know, but I went into her profile, and it's Tanya.
Oh,
And
okay.
she likes our stuff every week. And so thank you so much,
Oh,
Tanya. I'm sorry I called you
that's nice.
Tony. But I mean to err is human, right?
Right? To forgive divine.
Exactly. But yeah, thank you for everybody. Like we really appreciate it, and we
Yeah.
really appreciate your support. And Robin recommended a
Yes.
story. So thank you, Robin. That is what
Yay.
the like little forum on our website is for. So if you have story suggestions, it's
Yeah,
linked.
please send
Yeah,
them.
it's linked directly to our email. So it's super easy. If you scroll down to under it, you can see our email address on the website as well. And if you click on it, it will open up your email, and you can send us an email directly that way if you want. But the form is really easy to use. So, um,
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you want more of us lovely ladies, like Jessica said, we now have a website.
Yay.
And it links to our Instagram and our Facebook. So definitely check it out.
Yes, please. And if you want to rate and review us, you can do it on Facebook, or you can do it
Yes, that'd be
on
really helpful.
Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. I don't know which ones you're allowed to rate and review.
Yeah, there's a couple. Like you said, I'm not sure which ones. And
Yeah.
we're now on a bunch of new platforms, which I think we talked about last week. But just a reminder, so
Yeah,
you can listen to us in millions of
I don't know if
places.
we mentioned it last week because I think it was just kind of um set up, but like we're on Pandora now and iHeartRadio as well.
And
And
Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank
So,
you so much, everybody.
yeah. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.
Bye.